there was a time when computers were a little bit slower that as a technician, you would often hear us say, "Would you please stop clicking for a minute?"
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 461 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle from Carden. What's up, Donna?
Oh, you know, this, that, and the other. That's what my dad always said.
So do you want to talk, about your business continuity plan in action?
Yeah, this is it. This is what we're doing. Yes, we have them. We've been testing them a lot in the last few months, all of our continuity plans, and can we adapt to a constantly changing situation? Now, for the first time, I mean, honestly, I've never had this happen, so that's good news. Bad news is I am having it happen. Our internet connection, the Carden Cave headquarters, went down yesterday and has stayed down, and it looks like it's coming up, and then it goes back down. So, yes, you know, I had to have my plan B, which was always here, and I have relocated to my plan B location, which is not my normal situation, but I'm still operating like normal.
Yep. So, there you go. Better have a plan, no matter what it is.
I have a plan. All right.
All right. So we got a couple things to cover. We're going to, go into the briefs and the 405D tip and all that. And then we're going to get to the question of the day, which is, can clickers change? And we'll talk about what that means and what that looks like, because those are the folks that will get you in trouble for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely the issue. And this report we're going to review makes it very clear.
Yeah, that's right. So we do want to say thanks to those who are joining us and who donate and who go to helpmewithhipaa.com to visit us often. And you can also find information there about Donna's day job at Carden, as well as mine at HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT, because, I ain't got nothing else to do but work.
Right.
But anyway, thanks. Make sure you share this out. Like, share, subscribe, all those good things. We definitely appreciate it. It helps. All right. So let's get into the HIPAA briefs. What you got going on about the OCR is boosting HIPAA enforcement.
Yeah, that was, I just want to reiterate, because, we need to do that from time to time. So it doesn't get lost for those who may have missed those episodes. It was an interview in the, I think it was Health Info Security, one of those security sites. Anyway, they interviewed Melanie Fonts-Rayner, the director of OCR, and got all of the same info that we had from before, and it's like, they're publishing it like news, and we should reiterate that it is news. The specific things are her comments about the SRA enforcement initiative, where she has noted that it's a significant weakness among many regulated organizations, but especially for medium and smaller ones, a poor risk analysis. It's a major contributing factor, blah, blah, blah. And this is a big issue, and it's one we're really trying to drive compliance across the system, working through our HHS partners, which I thought was interesting. Anyway, so reiterating that, also mentioning that they have, ramped up and they're opening up their audit program to start doing them again. Still haven't, they're actively building. I don't know if they're actively doing them yet, but I know that hasn't changed. and changes to the security rule are definitely happening. So it just reiterated all those things. And, there's still the debate about the online tracking technologies and what their stance is and yada, yada, yada. But we got a link to that to just reiterate all of those things.
Yeah. Yep. All this is going to start getting interesting.
Yeah.
And then, you throw in, you look at your SRA and then you throw in everything that's happening right now, especially with AI and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, your SRA just got even more complex because now there's even more things that you have to consider because you have more risk than you did before. So it's always something. It's always something.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we are doing, I'm doing a webinar on, it's a 2-part webinar on understanding what is all the AI madness and how it will impact healthcare, or what we know now, and some tips and guidance on what you should be doing now and where to go from here. So we'll put the information for that on the website, but there is a introductory one that is freely available June the 6th, so probably after this comes out, because we just decided to do it. But you can get tickets to the paid 2-hour seminar that takes you through all the details, plus all the replays. Very affordable. I mean, the first 20 tickets we sell, we're doing it $67.
Oh, nice.
And then after that, it's $97. And you get access to it. And we're not leaving the access out there forever, because it'll be changed by the time when I create these, by the time I'm presenting them, there will have been changes just in a matter of days. So that always happens.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing that you and I are also looking at as far as AI is concerned that we're starting to see a ramp up is the wearables that have AI. So you have the Ray-Ban glasses, and then there's another thing that's coming out in August.
Yeah, you're excited.
Which is like a little, like a little clip-on thing that listens to everything, which is funny because it's so funny that for years I've complained because my phone's always listening to everything I say. But yet I see this device that its purpose is to listen to everything you say. And I'm like, oh, I want that.
Now, tell the truth. You want it so that you can record the conversations with your wife and do the actual replay, like the commercials. I want a replay on that. You did say it.
Yeah, that's the difference, really. When it boils down to it, it's not that something's recording me. It's that I can't use all the recordings that my phone decides to grab and feed me back advertisements, but I can use this other one because it's saying, here's the recording of everything that you said or heard during the day. What do you want me to do with it?
And you're like, I'm all over that.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of value to that in a lot of different ways. You take all the in-person meetings that you have, discussions that you have, and I don't know about you, but I often forget a good bit of stuff. And I also am, when I get involved in, I know you experience this, you're involved in like this deep work, right? And your spouse walks up to you and starts having a conversation. And you're like, I have no earthly idea what you're talking about, what you're even saying. I might be nodding in agreement, but I have not heard a word because I am deep in my work. Mm-hmm. And then later it's like, well, you heard me. You acknowledged me. No, that was like just an automatic response.
Yeah. The rule is now, after all these years, get me to acknowledge and discuss and respond, not just nod, to acknowledge that I am hearing and processing.
Yeah. So now with this thing though, the way I plan to use it is at the end of my day, it's like, give me a summary of my day. And specifically, did my wife give me any action items I should be aware of?
That'll work.
So you know what? It might be the key to a happy marriage. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, and so these are the kind of conversations we'll have in that 2-hour one of the things that you should consider, because that, while David has an admirable choice of priorities, this particular, it's limitless.ai, limitless. And they already had an app called Rewind. But anyway, the net of it is their long-term plan here is to make this HIPAA compliant. To make it be something that you could use where physicians could use this when talking with their patients and be able to get all the details. So it's pretty cool. And, we'll play with that a little bit further down the line. But if you want more information, go to harnessing-ai.cardinhq.com. All right. So now,
all righty,
the tip of the week. It's
so 405D.
Yeah, there's the new Quick Shot video series has launched. We know there's more coming, and there's a lot of things that are being built out in the Knowledge on Demand, the COD, the 405D COD section, and the first Quick Shot, and these are 2 to 3 minute videos that explain cybersecurity terms, like with little cartoon characters. It's supposedly in a fun and engaging manner, but we all know, it's being goofy. But the first one explains what a botnet is. Check it out. Share it with your friends and family so they at least know you don't want. This gets back to, I don't have anything on my computer. You have a computer.
Yeah.
Your computer can be part of an army of computers. Anyway, so go check that out at 405d.hhs.gov. And you can also, of course, get the links at helpmewithhipaa.com/461. Okay. Now we also I had 2 important things that are news stories that didn't want to miss making this point because they're current. As we've talked about repeatedly, the HSCC 405D, our motto is cyber safety is patient safety, and the importance of it. And if you haven't heard, Ascension Healthcare, they are in 19 states and the District of Columbia, and they have been hit hard by a cyber attack. They are staying operational, but the nurses union is like raising a red flag because they're worried about patient safety in the cyber attack. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you get it. And the point that we're in the article, which of course there's a link to on the webpage, but for the last 2 weeks, doctors and nurses at Ascension Hospital in more than a dozen states haven't had access to patient electronic medical records because of a massive ransomware attack. Okay? We always say this is what happens. So yes, that's a fact, Jack. But then they go further and say the hospital hasn't scaled back its services, which is both good news and not so good news when the nurse they were interviewing continues with, one day last week, 38 surgeries were done. And not every one of these patients had their lab work returned before they went into the OR, and the nurses are very concerned. So there were some other things.
Yeah.
There were some other things they were very concerned about, but there are serious impacts to patient safety where we think we've moved so much forward in having all this technology. If we can't count on it to be available and accurate, now we have big issues. So that's why we can't forget that, the HIPAA requirements that we talk about are about confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Yeah. I don't want to be one of those guys sitting on the table, hear the doctor, just open them up. And let's see what we got.
We'll get that test in a minute. Somebody's running down here with it.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing was an AI public service announcement. This is one of the things you sent me. You sent me, and I see the headline. New Windows AI feature takes screenshots of your desktop every few seconds, and I can't imagine wanting that.
Yeah. I mean, of course, my first thing was, what? How do I turn that off?
Well, and this is the big thing that we talk about with AI so much is you need to know what's happening because these things are rolling out, and some of them are on by default.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
It's not just, imagine if somebody had that turned on because they thought it was a good idea. And where are those screenshots going? And what's on that screen? What the?
That sounds like more stuff for your SRA.
No. And my SRA has to be fluid, even more so than normal. There we go. I got through those quick things so that we can now go into a fun conversation about clickers and their clickers and their clicking need to click.
Yep. So, if you're somebody who is a gamer, though, you probably know The Last of Us. They had a movie series out on that game, but there are monsters or whatever they are in the game that are called clickers. Because of the clicking sound they make. That is not what we're talking about today. We are talking about those folks that just love clicking on everything that comes into their inbox.
But, and some of them, it's not that they love it, it's they can't control themselves. It's I have to know or I don't care.
Yeah. It's, there was a time when computers were a little bit slower that as a technician, you would often hear us say, would you please stop clicking for a minute?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, so when you click on things that are malicious or can lead to something malicious, man, that's a big problem. And we have tools that we measure that with now to see who the clickers are in organizations. And of course, the question today is, can we change those folks?
Yes, that is, yes. And at this point, it's almost, what's scary is the challenges in knowing when it's really something you shouldn't go and interact with is getting harder to recognize, not easier. So what we had is, and I've had this and just hadn't had a chance for us to do a session or episode on it. The Fortra's Terra Nova unveils global phishing benchmark report, which came out in February, but it's where they do every year as part of CSAM, the Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October. They do a Gone Fishing tournament, and they've trademarked it because I thought it was a brilliant name.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. First year it came out, I fished our team, and they were when they found out that's what I was doing, they were also angry about that. But why are you always tricking us and not telling us you're tricking? Because somebody's got it. But it just as a sidebar, they've already rolled out the Champions program for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And it's the theme, Secure Our World. They're trying to standardize things so that we're constantly sending messages that, and so you can go sign up now, get started now. We actually had a meeting where we're working with the Cardin Club folks that we're going to help them build their program for this year using all these freely available tools. Plus, we may add a few things in. But I did note that it links to the Secure Our World with CISA, already has things available. But I'm sorry that that front page, we use MFA at work and it's great. It's like, no.
That's hilarious.
No one ever.
Yeah. Usually what I get is, can we turn this crap off?
Right.
The business owner wants it off. No, you can't turn it off. What's wrong with you?
Let's discuss. But, I think people are finally giving in that, you can listen to podcasts not long ago where we were like, y'all need to understand this 2FA thing. I mean, we started years ago saying, now this is added security. This is what makes you better than the others. Well, now this puts you behind if you're not doing it. So,
yeah. And a lot of platforms require it now. Like, you don't have an option. It turns on and you better use it, or you're not using the platform.
Well, and that's what we talked about. It's time for anything that's important has a mandatory MFA. So back to the fishing tournament, though, and what the results they found. First of all, it went from this tiny idea, when they did it a few years ago, and now they had almost 300 organizations globally. Over 1.37 million end users were attacked.
Wow.
So the thing I don't know is, did the organizations just give them everybody like what we would do, or did they give them, here, let's give our frequent clickers? So it might have skewed the numbers, but I would assume that if you're going to do it across the board. But just like when we reviewed the Verizon report, and it was like, it's the people, human error is a real problem. Yeah. They did cover 13 different sectors, so we know we've got a little narrow slice of what the different sectors did, but it's the same thing, and I don't think this has changed. I think the numbers are consistently the same where this is concerned. If you click at all, if you click through, whatever they're trying to get you to do after you click, you are substantially more likely to actually give up the goods. So if you head down the path, you're already gone. And the numbers were insane. So basically, with overall, looking at it, you roughly have a 10% chance of getting somebody to click. Okay, but 10% of 1.37 million is
that's a lot.
A freaking lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But they roughly 10% chance they're going to click. It's actually a little over that. But once they do click, so 10% click, but of that 10%, 62% actually follow through and give up the goods.
Yeah. It's almost the same like marketing. They tell you if you can get micro commitments, as soon as you get that first commitment, you're more likely to get the second commitment.
So there you go. They're doing really good marketing and phishing campaigns.
They are.
So just to talk about that marketing and how these things work, while it wasn't phishing, you had a very interesting smishing attack on you personally that I think we want to share here. Hit it.
Yeah. So like everybody, I get hit with attacks daily. I get them from Facebook. I get them from email, get them from SMS, it's text messaging. So I get one, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, and it was a little interesting to me. So I wanted to kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit with it to see what it was doing. So I get a text message and it says, this is, insert company name here. This is a debt collection notification. This is your reference number. Go here to learn more or something like that. I don't know. It was good. It was done very well. So the first thing I did was I went and looked up the company, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's a legit debt collection company. Now, I know I don't have any debts anybody's trying to collect. So I'm like, this not it. And even if I did, this is probably not the way somebody's going to contact me. So, and it's like, oh, it's an emotional trigger thing. So all the other red flags were there. And I'm like, okay, but let me see what happens if I take this URL and put it into VirusTotal. And because I got a process I follow to see if links are malicious or not malicious. And I'm working on kind of a process that I can be able to show anybody, because most of our tools catch things. But I want to be able to say, if you don't have any tools, here's some things you can do on your own. So I've been kind of playing with some of these options here, but I went to VirusTotal, ran it, and it came back completely clean. Not a problem at all. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So then I go and I open it up in a sandboxed Windows environment, and I go to the URL, and it pulls up a page, looks just like the website, login information and all that. And it says, enter your reference number here, enter one of 3 bits of information, either the last 4 of your social, your date of birth, or, and I can't remember the last one, might have been mother's maiden name, something like that. But it said pick one. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I think I see what they're doing here. So I put the reference number in, and then I selected last 4 of social, and I just put in 4 numbers, and I clicked submit or log in or whatever it was. And it came back and said, there has been an error trying to log in. Please pick another information option or whatever. So I'm like, I see what they're doing. They're going to make you go through each one of them, and none of them will work, or maybe the last one you do works. I don't know. I didn't keep going, but I'm like, this is what they're doing. So you're going to keep entering in all this information because you think you need to do it to log in, and now they got everything.
Well, and that's all of those are secondary identifiers in many cases.
Right.
Well, and what else happened?
Yeah.
When
so I was like,
the other thing with the phone call.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is related, but it would be a crazy coincidence. But as soon as I put the reference number in and I clicked submit, my phone rang, my cell phone rang.
Where you got the original.
Yeah. So I don't know who it was. It wasn't a block number. It didn't come up as a spam number. It was a number I didn't recognize, which I never answered numbers I don't recognize. But literally when I clicked, it was within a second of me clicking, my phone rang.
We know that reference number is tied to your phone number.
Yeah. The reference number is tied to my phone number. So I am willing to bet that was part of it. That, okay, they've got my attention. If they can get me on the phone, now they got me distracted and they're talking to me and they're going to try to quote unquote help me log in or whatever the case might be. Yeah. But part of me, I came so close to answering it because I was like, I just want to see where this goes. But no, I didn't do it.
Sometimes it's fun if you have time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is it was clearly a very good attack. Not something David's fallen for. And I'm not saying that you should go do this. Like, you need to know how to do this, and how to mess around with it a little bit. And, I'm constantly evaluating things when they look like they're really good for this reason. But know that there are steps to go through to make sure that you don't end up in trouble. And, David's testing enough things. He'll blow things up. We know he will.
Yeah. The bad thing about it is, it lets them know that my cell phone number is legit. And, and so I'm sure it puts me on a list. I'll probably get more of them. That's the downside to it.
Well, but, then you can have some more fun and report back to us.
Sure, I'll do that.
All right, so back to the report though is, like I said, these things are going to keep getting worse, and we've got to deal with the fact that once they start down the path, these guys know. They up the ante once you begin to interact with them. It gets more intense, right? So then we said, when you're reading this, you're like, okay, so let me go ahead and close one eye and peep into the sector things to see when we narrow it down. Good news and bad news here for healthcare. Bad news for others all the way around. When you break it down by industry, it is not promising that we're trying to figure out how to educate people, and the worst ones are education.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with that, but my sister's in education. I'm going to have a conversation to say, what?
Yeah, but the second place,
Yeah.
well, it's not second, I guess a third place even. It's like so IT got 33.3, and that's percent, right?
Yeah, so that's when you're looking at the maximum anybody got. But when they look at the overall rate, and what they did was they kind of weighted it because industries that are regulated have a lot more training, so they gave them, they weighted. If you got somebody to click and you knew they were getting a lot of training, that was a whole lot more important than somebody else. So because like in the transportation industry, some are more regulated than others, so they tried to base it on the information about the company and whether or not they were regulated to add to the
Right.
weighting of it. So, if the people who, like we said, you have a click rate, an average overall that they came up with about 10%. But education came up at 16.7%. I mean, we already talked about percentage-wise. I mean, these numbers, that's huge. I mean, definitely want it. You would love for it to be as close to zero as possible. And the good news, though, is healthcare was not the number one, which is often that. But again, how much work have we put into phishing testing? So solid 10% right there in the middle. Gotta love it. We're average. We're not the worst. We're not the best.
Yeah. We can celebrate being average finally.
But the sector right above was IT, and at 10.1%. But then they go through and break it down further so that they give you what's the lowest number in that sector, what's the highest number in that sector, and then their weighted number that they reported for it. And that chart was a lot more scary. Of the 13 sectors, 11 of them had at least one organization that had a click rate higher than 25%. Ouch. So, yeah, a lot of sectors had 0% as their lowest number. That didn't happen in healthcare. The lowest number that they were able to get was 2.8%. That's still acceptable. It's not where it want to be, but it's still acceptable. But they were no different than anybody else about having the high-end stuff. The high end for the three sectors that got my attention was that the only sector with a higher minimum percentage than education was 2.8% was the lowest. The only sector higher than the minimum was higher than healthcare was 2.9, and that was energy. So at least IT did have a 0%. The lowest was no clicks, but the maxes are crazy. Healthcare was 26.8%. Somebody in healthcare had 26.8%. But even worse, somebody in IT had 33.3. And then
See, I argue with IT part of it because IT is such a diverse sector that when I initially hear IT, I'm thinking IT folks like me, the technical folks and the cybersecurity folks. But there's so many other jobs out there that are under IT that are not. They're not that technical.
The company is an IT company, not the job. This is the sector the company works in.
Okay. So you could have a non-technical, like I have people on my staff that are non-technical, but they work for an IT company.
But not 33%.
No. Yeah, but it's different. It's different.
Education still had their max was 37.5. That's what's jacking theirs way up. But so
yeah,
so we have that number, and we're looking at it can be really bad. The average is good, but we're getting really high numbers, way beyond what we want to see. But then you ask, because now we talk about, the if you click, it's like a 60-something% chance that you're going to now give up the goods.
Yeah.
That didn't change.
Hmm.
No matter what you did, healthcare still remained at that solid 66.6%, right in the average. But yes, IT was slightly higher than that. So giving up the goods, but it's I don't know, with the IT thing, I thought you were going to say they're more likely to test it. But the way this particular phishing campaign works is to get you to give them login credentials. You don't test giving them login
Okay.
credentials. Yeah, so
Well, that's good that they did that, because we do have a number of false positives, especially with like our security, because sometimes our security clicks the links and follows them and then reports back, and it's not a human doing it. And so it can fail a phishing test if it's not configured properly.
So, there is that, but it should be a very low number. If that's what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they did also point out that some sectors you get a lot more email, right? Your day-to-day job involves sitting in front of a computer dealing with email. All sectors
Mm-hmm.
don't have their day-to-day job dealing with email. So they did bring up that difference and tried to add that to the weighting as well, to look at
Mm-hmm.
how that impacts us. But the regulatory obligations, they did find they're not doing substantially better than those who don't have regulatory. That mattered. And they also compared the size of the organization. As we always ask, does size matter? Yes, but no, but yes. It was everything was average on the likely to click number. Everybody was about 10%, except companies under 100 employees. They were like 12.9. But on the flip side of that, once they did click, they were only 50%. You had a flip of the coin with them on whether or not they were going to give it up. Yeah. But the rest of the groups all still around 60%. And the next level up, and so it's kind of interesting how they broke it down. It's like less than 100, 100 to 499. So they're the ones, the 100 to 499 are the ones that have the highest likelihood of, they're about average on the click rate, but they have the highest likelihood of giving it up once they do. So it's like, as you grow, you need to, that next growth level, we're not getting it under control. We might have better control here, but way worse control there. So it was pretty interesting, though, overall. So to recap, we have good news. The good news is 90% don't fall for phishing, right around 90%, just a little less. Healthcare is not the worst nor the best. They're average. That is great.
Yeah.
It's such an improvement than what we've seen. And SMBs, if you have under 100 employees, you have a better chance of, even if they click, not giving up the goods. But that's still only 50-50. So a better chance.
Yeah.
That's the bad. That's the good news. The not so good is it's an overwhelming number. Whatever, if they click, we're in trouble.
Yeah. They're committed.
That's the big question is, with all the things that we do, and the campaigns and the training and all, how is it that they're getting the train and it's not sinking in? It's not connecting with them? Is it they're not getting the training? Is it they truly don't understand and they're not telling anybody? I don't know. No one's trying to figure that out, or if anyone's trying to figure it out, I haven't seen what they're finding.
Mm-hmm.
So the bad news is, I mean, once you click, and it's still at like 10% is the average, and many are above it. Healthcare is still firmly in the middle of the pack, not at the bottom where you would hope they are. Because you know what? Financials is. They're heavily regulated. They are way down there. So it's not,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I did like the way that they summarized things when they were talking about that. Is the results prove there is no one size fits all solution for security awareness. Hello. The existing culture, as well as leadership's willingness to make cybersecurity awareness a top priority versus a low stakes compliance consideration, can often dictate how engaging and effective awareness programs end up being at the corporate level.
Yeah.
It's a leadership problem.
Mm-hmm.
And David's got nothing else to say about that. He is not saying a word.
I mean, we've said this, I don't know how many times before. We constantly say this. It's top down. Your organization is only as good as the leadership when it comes to this.
Well, it's just like you mentioned in the MFA thing. The owner doesn't like it. He wants to turn it off. Okay, therein lies the problem.
Yep.
This is inconvenient and frustrating for me, and that's all that matters, and I'm not going to take into account how important this is.
Yeah. I mean, I know oftentimes when we're talking about cybersecurity, you'll hear somebody say, well, you hate to have Susie at the front desk. And I'm like, I'm not worried about Susie at the front desk. I'm worried about Susie in the upper office. The CEO Susie's who I'm worried about.
Yeah. I'm worried about somebody that is in a leadership position, not engaged in making this happen. And we try all kinds of ways to get the message across. But if the leadership of the organization says, oh, this is ridiculous and I hate this, and they're the ones, then they joke about the fact they always fall for it, and they don't take it seriously and make it a priority, I often mention the mentor I had years ago when I first went into managing people, and he would tell me all kinds of really interesting things that, succinct information to use. And one was, no matter what it is you do, know that your team will do a little less than that. Even if you're a leader.
At best.
Even if you're a leader.
At best.
They are going to do a little less than what you do, which is why you have to be above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
If that's wherever you want them to be, you've got to be better than that. And, I have never seen a case that was not true. Down to, everything. Well, sometimes my team is better than me, but I'm fortunate with what I got, But overall, it's a behavior change that you have to have. And if there is no consequence for your behavior and there's no concern about your behavior, there you go. That's it. So, it's consistency and top down. So they did end in the report teaching them about this, and here's a recommendation for all of us to keep front of mind, as we say. And it's the CISO of Terra Nova Security, CISO, gave the recommendations. Okay? So, and by the way, the Gone Fishing tournament is GPT, which was fine until just recently being GPT. So what I wanted to do was to go through these five things here. We're going to end with this and your example, and let's see where it would have, how you found it, how you knew it. Go through the 5 steps, David.
Okay, so number 1, confirm the sender's email domain. So, you want to look at that, make sure there's no misspellings, all that kind of stuff. So in my example, though, was a smishing. So there's not an email domain, but do I recognize who the sender is? And I don't. Scrutinize the email's content, for, any kind of urgent language or anything that pressures immediate action. So again, in my example, it was, a debt collector trying to get in touch with you. So that, rises your emotional state where it's like, oh my God, what is it?
If it creates an emotional response, stop.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it could be a positive emotional response. Like, you just won, it's not always negative. Number 3, never email personal or financial information. I would say not just email, never put it into a form or anything. Yes. Don't put it anywhere.
Yes.
So exercise caution with email links. And I would again say, not just email links, any links. If it's coming to your phone, wherever else it's coming to, any kind of links. By the way, not just links, QR codes are also
which are links.
Which are links. Yeah. But I don't want somebody to go, well, you said you are linked. QR codes wasn't thing. Yeah. No, not just links, QR codes, because this is another form of a link. Be careful. That is a thing that's rampant right now. And then lastly, number 5, double check, not double click, double check the URL and site security. So obviously reading it and seeing what it is, but we don't see this as much, but looking whether or not it's a secure site or not, HTTPS, but I don't even know if that's
they've gotten past that anymore.
Yeah, that's not even a thing real much anymore, because you're going to see that happening. Even on a malicious site, it's going to have site security. But yeah, if you're not 100% sure, if there's any ounce of doubt, then don't enter any information on the site, any at all. Pick up the phone and call, or open up another browser window and go directly to the website. If you think it's Amazon, go directly to the Amazon site. Go to your account page, look at the information, whatever it is. Don't click on the link.
Don't even go to the domain name they give you.
No, absolutely not.
Go to search for the company and evaluate the URLs that you're getting there before going.
Yep. There you go.
All right, so there you go. We're done.
We're done. Okay, folks, thanks for listening. That is our show for today. Be sure to share this out to your favorite social media site and help us spread the word so that we can help more people not be clicking. All right, folks, remember that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.